We Listen To, when I first came up with this idea, it was actually to tell you what songs we've been listening to that we love on the equipment that we've been listening to it on. So I know Adrian and Lewis haven't been doing that, but I'm actually going to do that today. So my first track is going to be a track by Fela Kuti, who would be considered the godfather of Afrobeat. The track is called Coffin for Head of State. When he was a musician at this time, there was a lot of political upheaval in the country. His mother was a politician. There was one moment where the army had entered his personal compound and threw his mother out a window. His mother survived at the time, but later from those injuries she passed away. There is something about Fela Kuti. There's something primal, there's something visceral. If you know anything about it, you know that every album he put out, he could literally end his life. They could put him in jail for life. It was always a risk for him to put out an album. He was always under a watchful eye of the government. He was always extremely outspoken. And I don't know what it is, but that comes through in his music. His music is very, it can become very emotional. Sometimes it's aggressive, sometimes it's very soft. It's usually recorded live off the floor. So essentially it's a live recording. At the time of recording, he has anywhere from 10 to 20 musicians playing in the studio at the time, including backup singers, horn section. He would play saxophone and keyboards. Tony Allen, fantastic drummer. This song always gets me. And I had set up the Accuphase E4000 integrated amp, and that was paired with Mofi 888s. Great speaker, by the way. Cables were Blue Heaven Nordos for the speaker cables. Interconnects coming from the Ever Solo A6. They were Nordos Heimdall's balanced. What a good system to listen to this song on. The Mofi 888s are a little bit different from the other Mofis that we've heard. So we've had the Source Point 10s since I started here 2 years ago. But for me on this system, with the 888s, it smoothed out the aggressiveness of Fela Kuti's recordings, because they're not the best recordings. My next one is the Beatles. And to be honest, we rarely ever play the Beatles. I'm a huge Beatles fan, but we rarely ever play the Beatles here. And this one is recent. This one is from yesterday, actually. Today's Saturday? Yeah, yesterday. So the track is from the White Album. It's Happiness is a Warm Gun. And I was actually playing it in here. So we're using in here is the Acora in quartz. We're using the C55 going into the Gryphon Essence amplifier, and it was Shinyata speaker cables and Nordos, again Nordos Heimdall's coming from a Lumen P1. It's weird, whenever I'm in front of the Acora speakers, I'm always searching for music where I think I might want to hear it for the first time again. And Acoras somehow do that to me every time. I love them. I love all their speakers. These ones in particular. So the separation in the instruments is amazing. The grittiness and that mid-range John Lennon vocal is just phenomenal on these speakers. It cuts through so well, so defined. The separation in the instruments. And again, you know, you've been listening to these songs since you were a kid, but you're picking out these little, these little things. The tone of the guitar, You can hear the grittiness of Paul McCartney's bass on this album. Just a wonderful track. Also, you know, the White Album was the album where they kind of did their own thing. So you can kind of tell what's a Paul song, what's a John Lennon song. And this song really shows where John Lennon was going in the future with his music, especially in his soon-to-be solo career. Great track. My last one is an interesting one. So the name of the band is Hiatus Kaiyote. They're from Australia, independent band if you want to call them that. It's very hard to categorize what type of music they would be. I've heard it as hip-hop, funk. Sure, why not? I don't really hear the hip-hop in it. To be honest, I would call it modern jazz is what I would call it. And I did something a little bit different. The track is on an album called Choose Your Weapon, but I actually wanted to do something different. So we've had Daniel Hurt's equipment here for about a year now, and it's always touted as being able to play you know, music from MP3s or compressed music. So I actually chose a live recording. The YouTube channel is called Boiler Room. Small little outdoor concert in the middle of the daytime or the middle of the afternoon. Wonderful recording. And I wanted to see how the Daniel Hurt's equipment would handle somewhat of a compressed recording live too, so it's not the greatest recording. This was with the Daniel Hurt's Maria 800, which is the biamp model going into the Kiera stand mount speakers. I don't know what it is about Daniel Hurt's equipment, but I listen to a lot of terrible recordings, and there are some systems in here which really show you how terrible these recordings can be. We were listening to one yesterday, and the client was like, I've never heard this recording sound so bad. And he said, in his car it sounded amazing, and here it sounds terrible. And I basically said, you're listening to a very transparent system, so it's not going to color anything. It's not going to present things in a way that's flattering. I don't necessarily want that in a system. I know some people do. There's something special about what Daniel Hurt's systems do. You can really throw terrible recordings at it, and somehow, some way, it puts a little sheen over it and makes it sound wonderful. This track, if you were listening to it on the album, is very overproduced. Wall of sound in terms of overdubs for her vocals is how I would tell people about this track. Like her vocals are very big. The harmonies that she chooses to use on the album are fantastic. Live though, there's no backing vocals. It's just her. There's minimal processing, obviously. Small little outdoor concert. Great band, great recording. Lots of key changes, as she alludes to in the beginning of the song. So yeah, I think that's it.